Hey, Facebook family, YouTube subbies, what's up? Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at 5. Today is Thursday. Yeah, I had to think about it. I never know what day it is. Excuse me. I am so happy to be here with you guys tonight. It's been a minute, right? And there's a whole lot that I want to talk to you about as we end this year. Not much has changed, unfortunately. We've ended this year much like we began. Excessive use of police force, minimizing and mitigating bad behavior by police officers, um, police chiefs and sheriffs at whose pleasure they serve, minimizing and mitigating bad behavior by police officers. None of that has changed, family, sadly. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on from the beginning of the year up until right now. And more importantly, because you guys know it's not good news, what you can do in your own little corner to try to make things better. We have a new administration that's going to be taking office on January 20th at 12 noon. I can't wait. How about you? Hey, keeping busy. How are you? What's up, Shemp? Happy New Year. New administration taking office 12 o'clock, January 20th. So I need you guys to, Atlanta, can I just speak to you for a minute, Atlanta? Just me and you. I need you guys to do your thing on January the 5th, January 5th, January 6th. When are you guys voting? I forget. I hope you know. I need you to do your thing because listen, we got to get Turtle Boy out of there. We need Democratic controlled Senate to hopefully help this new administration that's coming in move their agenda in a way that's going to, be beneficial for, folks who look like me and some of you. Need you to do your thing, Atlanta. And it sounds like you guys are well on your way. Record numbers in terms of early voting. That's all good stuff. And so once these new folks get into office, we need to have a fireside chat with them. We need to sit down and talk about all those things that they promised us they were going to do. We need to make sure that they do, family. And then, after all of that is said and done, I need you to kind of buckle down and pay attention for the rest of 2021 and be ready in 2022 mid-year election. That's the time when a lot of folks change channels, lose interest, and folks who said they were going to do some stuff, if they don't do it in 2021, then you know what to do in 2022, right? So we'll talk about all of that. Let me just say hello to a couple of folks as you guys step into the room. Good evening, Demetrius Bailey. How are you? World-class Satanist. What's up? I want to do something kind of special tonight for all of you. I want to say, for those of you who are new to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, welcome. I'm a retired 20-year veteran sergeant of the Los Angeles Police Department. Spent all 20 years working in patrol in uniform, so I know a thing or two about a thing or two. And I've been doing this on this journey since about 2013 when I wrote my first book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Manifesto. And then came out with a revised version in 2018, Black and Blue, Creation of a Social Advocate. And of course, some of you know, many of you probably know, you've heard me talk about my saga over at the Los Angeles Unified School District. And so I have a third volume coming out in the Black and Blue series, Creation of a Whistleblower. And I'll be sharing some information with those of you who may be dealing with workplace issues, a hostile work environment, retaliation. You too may be a whistleblower and not know what to do. And so I want to share with you what happened to me so you'll know when it happens to you not to lose your mind. Hey, OG Eric, what's up in the STL? What's up, dude? I appreciate you for being here. Creation of a Whistleblower. It's written, it's on the shelf, it's ready to go. Actually, I even have a copy of it right here so you guys know that I'm not just pulling this out of my nether regions. It's actually written. I can't publish it, family, because my friends over at the Los Angeles Unified School District, of course, you know, they monitor my social media. Hey, Frank. Hey, Melinda LaDuff Menifee. I know you guys are watching and listening, and so I can't give them or the attorneys who are representing them in this hostile work environment a heads up. So I'm not going to be publishing my book and making it available. for them to read, even though Frank Kabibi has taken me to court, not once, not twice, but 3 times, suing me, trying to stop me from publishing my book to no avail because the judge said that they're not into censoring folks. And so my book will be published in my own time when I'm ready. But listen, Frank, tell your attorneys over at the LAUSD, if you really don't want me to publish this book, talk to my attorney. You know who he is. There's a way to keep me from going public with what it is I'm going to go public about. You, Frank Kabibi. So that's that. Now, I want to start off saying thank you to everybody who has been with me from day one, who has supported me continuously, who's followed me, who's done the thing that I ask you guys to do. Tell a friend. I appreciate all of you who are new to my channel and have been coming back to see what it is that I have to say. And in appreciation for those of you who've been supporting me, I want to do a little something for you tonight. And so what I'm going to do later in the broadcast, because I don't have the ability to multitask and figure out who's doing what I'm asking you to do while I'm talking to you. But what I will do is give you a website, not a website, but I will give you a Gmail account. And for the first 5, just the first 5 folks who go to the Gmail account that I'm going to give you, you can have your choice as a thank you from me to you for your many years of support and subscribing and following Sergeant Dorsey Speaks here on YouTube, as well as my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. And for those of you who are following me on my Instagram, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, I just want to say thank you. And so in so doing, what I'll do is I'll give you a little t-shirt like this. Your agreement is not required. And this is just, not only is it me being a little feisty, but it's just to say, you are good all by yourself. And everybody needs to know this is like a self-love situation, stealing that from one of the Cubs. Self-love, you're good by yourself. Don't be bothered by what anybody says about you or to you. Their agreement is not required. And so if you choose a t-shirt like the one that I'm wearing in black, I'll send it to you. I'll need you to give me in that Gmail address your size. If you opt to get a copy of my autobiography, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, if you opt for this over the t-shirt, then all you got to do is just give me your mailing address in that Gmail when I give it to you, not now, because I don't want you guys to leave. I want you to stay. Demetrius, thank you for that. Congratulations. I appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know and you want to support me, you can do that by visiting my Cash App, which is Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. I'm on Venmo, also Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, or PayPal, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. And I have all of that information on all of my descriptions on my YouTube channel. So you can look up any one of my YouTube videos and you can see ways in which you can support the channel as well as the podcast. I appreciate you in advance. So let's do this. Let me start off by talking about what's not changed. Blacks being killed in 2020, right? Before I do that, though, there is some breaking news that I want to share with you. And it has to do with Breonna Taylor and the Tamir Rice investigations. And so let me first start with this. In the US, the police killed 164 Black people in the first 8 months of 2020 alone. And I believe the first person that was killed in this year, 2020, was a young Black man by the name of Tyree Davis, and that was on January the 4th. And so they have been full steam ahead, even with all the stuff that we've seen captured on video. Derek Chauvin sitting on the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and Rashard Brooks being shot in the back because he stole an officer's already deployed taser and ran with it, causing a little bit of embarrassment for that officer, no doubt. Cost Rashard Brooks his life. And so they didn't stop with just that 164 Black folks that they were killing in the first 8 months of this year. It continued. And so to that end, there's new news on the Breonna Taylor situation over in Louisville. Breonna Taylor was the no-knock warrant that was served on her home. And of course, they tried to dirty this young woman up like they do all of us when they kill us, because I tell you all the time, when a police officer kills you, There's only one story to tell, and that's the one that the officer tells. And they tell a story, they weave this tale of woe, they dirty up the victim, they lie. We know that to be true, and I'll talk about some of those lies that they've tried to um, trick us with. And then they try to justify something that was unjustifiable. And so we've been waiting for many, many months in the case of Breonna Taylor to see whether or not justice was going to be served in this matter. And so now we know it's not. You heard me talk about Attorney General in Kentucky, Daniel Cameron, the one who I call skinfolk, but he's not our kinfolk. We knew that he was playing loose and dirty with the facts surrounding information that was given to the grand jury. We know that several of the jurors came forward anonymously and said that no, he kept information from us. And we now know on purpose, seemingly, allegedly, to prevent from filing any criminal charges against the police officers. And so to placate folks, now we hear that two of the other officers that were involved in that no-knock warrant were going to be fired, just fired. Haven't heard a word about criminal charges other than the one that AG Daniel Cameron filed against Brett Hankinson. He's the one officer who was charged criminally, and not because he killed Breonna. I mean, listen, Daniel Cameron's okay with that. He's all right with that. Brett Hankinson was filed on because he shot through the good white neighbor's apartment from the back side of the building. That's why AG Cameron filed criminal charges on Brett Hankinson. And so now the other two officers involved in the case have been fired. Haven't heard anything about criminal charges. They're not talking about criminal charges. AG Cameron, all of a sudden, he got the no-knots, he disappeared. He had a whole lot to say, you know, when everybody was talking about this criminal charge being filed as if he was really doing something. And now he's just vaporized with regards to, well, what are you going to do about the two officers that just got fired? So the two officers that were fired, one is Detective Joshua Jaynes, Jaynes. Detective Joshua Jaynes is responsible for obtaining the no-knock warrant. And then the other person that was recently fired in Louisville, Kentucky is Detective Miles Cosgrove. Miles Cosgrove is the actual officer who fired based on the ballistics that were recovered there. In other words, the rounds that were found at the scene. He's the one who did all the shooting from the front. The shots, I think he fired 6 shots, maybe more. And several of his shots hit Breonna Taylor. So he too has been fired. Now, it's been reported that the interim police chief over there, Gentry Jaynes is the name. Gentry, the interim chief is named Gentry. That's the last name. And she said, I believe it's a she, that this detective, Joshua Jaynes, had lied when he obtained that search warrant. We knew that. You know, they tried to say that Breonna Taylor was somehow involved in narcotics activity and that she was a mule or a receiving mail at her apartment for her ex-boyfriend who was involved in drug activity, who was already in custody when they went to Breonna Taylor's home. We now know, I mean, we kind of knew before, but it's official that this Detective Joshua Jaynes, he lied. He lied, and he said that he had spoke to someone at the Postmaster General's office and that they had given him information. None of that was true. Actually, the information that they had on this location was stale. They didn't do the proper follow-up to make sure that everything that they knew or thought they knew about this apartment was actually fresh, new information, and it wasn't. And so because of that, because of Jaynes lying on this warrant application, and because of the information that he pretended to get from the postal inspector's office, lying about packages being received from Breonna Taylor, because of all of that, he was fired. But for his lie, he would not have been able to get the search warrant in the first place, and everything that happened after they showed up at Breonna Taylor's house, of course, wouldn't happen, and Miss Taylor would still be here with us. So he's been fired. Now, the FBI continues allegedly to investigate this case. However, they have not said whether or not any charges are going to come for violation of federal civil rights in this particular case. And so we'll have to wait and see. My guess is don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. While all of that is going on, we also got word this week on the case of Tamir Rice. Now, you know, Tamir Rice was the 12-year-old child who was playing in the park in Cleveland and was shot by Timothy Loman. 6 months on the department there in Cleveland as a police officer, had been sent home, not fired, but given the gift of resignation from another police department. I believe it was either Independence or Jennings Police Department. I get those two mixed up sometimes because I know that Darren Wilson, who was responsible for the murder of Eric Brown, had come from one of those. That department had been disbanded because it had a bunch of misfit toys on it. So Loman also came from another department. He was asked to leave. He did. And Cleveland said, we'll take him. The deputy chief over there on the department where Timothy Loman was asked to leave had said, this guy's, he's batshit crazy. And we can't have him on our department. And so they told him, dude, you got to go, not now, but right now. And the deputy chief was so concerned about his inability and lack of temperament, the fact that he was unteachable and trainable, that they called the mother, allegedly, and father and said, we're sending your baby boy home. Make sure you clear the house of any weapons. But he can't work here as one of our police officers. And so 6 months after he was hired over in Cleveland, he gets into this shootout where he fires the fatal shots that killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Now, it's interesting because if you know anything about his partner, and listen, what I'm telling you now, you can certainly Google this and look it up. Everything I tell you, you know, don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word. Do your own research. Google it and look it up. But check out Timothy Loman's partner. I think his name is Grambach. It's some funny name, but Grambach. You can find his partner. He was the senior officer in the car, and he too had a history, if you will, of foolishness. Hey, Jamie, I see you in the room. What's up, dude? Timothy Loman's partner had, prior to this shooting of Tamir Rice, been involved in an incident where a Black woman there had called the police because someone was blocking her driveway, and she wanted the police to come out and help her get this car from blocking her driveway so that she could, I guess, leave. Well, Timothy Loman's partner and whoever he was working with that day, or maybe he was working alone, wound up showing up on this radio call, and he gets into a damn argument with this woman and winds up beating her up. He beats the woman up and arrests her because, you know, when officers put hands on you, you got to go to jail. So he beats this woman up, arrests her, and they wound up settling financially with this woman because of it. So you understand that the two of them together is really a recipe for disaster. Timothy Loman was brand new, but he wasn't a brand new police officer. He was just new to the Cleveland Police Department, and he was working with a knucklehead as well. So you had Dumb and Dumber. Now, they're saying that there was an inability for the federal prosecutors to bring charges against Loman in this case that happened back in 2014. And one of the reasons that they were given for not filing charges is because they said the video quality was too poor. So let's talk a little bit about poor video quality and the fact that it was said to be grainy, and thus prosecutors could not conclusively establish whether or not Tamir was reaching for his toy gun just before he got shot. So my question then would be, so what happens if you don't have video at all? Because listen, video is a luxury. That's something that just started being available on a regular basis. And so the fact that the video was too grainy means now we're not going to even bother. That seems to me like a department, an agency who doesn't want to press charges against the officers, period. And so they're coming up with all these Mickey Mouse ticky-tack reasons to not take it to a jury. Let's take it to a jury and let's see what a jury says about whether or not the video is too grainy. And even if the video was poor quality and too grainy, and there were 3 experts hired by the family. Now, I don't know who these 3 police experts were that were hired. Samira, you probably should have talked to me, sis. The 3 experts couldn't articulate the fact that these officers used poor tactics prior to the shooting, and poor tactics led to a fatal shooting that should have never occurred. We're taking officer Loman, an officer beating up a black woman's word as if because they say it somehow that must be true. And we need conclusive evidence, per you, federal prosecutors, to overcome what the officer's statements were, which is Loman had given multiple commands to Tamir in the 3 seconds it took him to shoot him to drop the toy gun, allegedly. Now, listen, have you guys ever watched TV and you see those commercials about different medications and at the end they talk about all the things that'll happen to you if you take it? I call it just plain old, you get itchy booty, right, with some of this medicine. You know how fast they rattle off runny nose, watery eyes, diarrhea, thoughts of suicide, and everything else, right? Very quickly. There's no way that there's no way that Timothy Loman could have given multiple commands to Tamir to put his hands up and drop the weapon in 3 seconds. And so that in and of itself should be something that we should allow a jury to contemplate. The officers responded to a radio call of a possible child. Maybe they knew it was a child or not, but they knew it was someone with a gun. Tactically, if that's the radio call, you don't pull up right to the child, to the man, to the woman. You don't pull up right in front of someone who has a gun. It's just tactically unsound. And certainly that would then lead to a fatal shooting. And so I think when officers do things that will undoubtedly lead to a use of force or a fatal shooting, they should be held accountable. A jury should at least be given the opportunity to debate it and discuss it amongst themselves based on the reasonableness of that use of force. And so you're responding to a radio call, Loman, of a man with a gun, and you pull right up to the man with the gun, and in 3 seconds you've given multiple commands. I'm not buying that. I call bullshit. And you shoot and kill this child. And oh, by the way, you guys do know that Timothy Loman said, and so listen, if he said it, it must be true, that he looked at this 12-year-old child and thought that child was a 20-year-old man. And thus, he was in fear for his life. All the regular bullshit that we always hear from these folks. And so it just makes me think that they didn't have an appetite to press charges against these officers. And so it's very easy for prosecutors, whether they're on the federal level or the state level. You've heard a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. Very easy for them to come up with a reason to not take it to a jury. I know that prosecutors often don't want to take something before a jury if they don't think they're going to, quote, win, right? What the fuck is that? You're not going to win, so we just not going to do it? We're not going to talk about it? Are you kidding me? Take it to a jury, particularly something as outrageous and egregious as a 12-year-old child being killed for playing in the park with a toy gun, and let's see what that jury has to say. But it is what it is. It's a done deal. I thought this case was unofficially closed anyway. And so now we know that it is officially closed and there will be no justice. There was a civil settlement, though. They will throw buckets of money at families. $6 million was thrown at the family of Tamir Rice, allegedly, reportedly. And so maybe they feel like over there in Cleveland, you got $6 million, Samira. What more can we do for you, ma'am? I'm not saying that any family shouldn't be compensated financially, but I would like to see these, kind of ambulance chaser attorneys. That's what I call them. Ambulance chaser attorneys, dead body chasers. It would be nice if, along with that civil settlement, they would demand something substantively done different on that department in terms of how you're going to deal with that officer, because they were fighting with Loman for a long, long time to determine whether or not they were even going to fire him. And after they fired him, he was given, according to the agency that was going to hire him, a second chance, but it was really a third chance to be a police officer on another department. But because of public outrage, Loman decided, you know what, let me just not do this. And he rescinded his appointment on this other agency. Hey, Rod, what's up? I appreciate you for joining me, sir. So Loman had, after he'd been fired from Cleveland, applied for about 15 or 20 agencies. And if you guys who follow me, listen to any of my podcasts, you've heard me rattle off the various agencies where he applied, and they knew he was bad news and nobody else wanted that liability. They knew that ultimately they'd probably have to write a check, and so they just didn't want that work. Now, that's not to say that Loman may not be a police officer somewhere else. He was determined, and why, I don't know, but that just kind of, in my mind, speaks to his mindset, why it is that he wants to be a police officer so bad, but for to do what he did in the case of Tamir Rice. And so now that the family has been given this $6 million settlement, and we know that the prosecutor is saying, yeah, I don't think I could really convince a jury. So no, we're not gonna file any criminal charges. It's a wrap. It's over. And that is what's going on right now with the case of Tamir Rice. Also, let me see, I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, so let me just back up a little bit. So they said, the prosecutor said that there wasn't cumulative evidence to support the federal criminal civil rights violation, and thus the prosecution. However, they said to bring federal civil rights charges is a very high bar. You know that it's a very high bar to bring a civil federal rights charge. And to do that, the Justice Department must prove that the officer's actions willfully broke the law, that they broke the law rather than just made a mistake or were negligent. I think, given the right police expert on your team, you can articulate that to a jury if given an opportunity. And so I just think that it was unfortunate that they did not do that. Again, this is over in Cuyahoga County, the prosecutor. And so I don't know who the prosecutor is. It's not, that person is not named, but I will tell you this: prosecutors are elected officials, family. And whoever this prosecutor is, for those of you who live in Cuyahoga County, y'all need to know, because you'll have an opportunity to do something different come 2022 midterm with regards to this prosecutor, is my belief. And I would do my homework and my research, and I would follow and see exactly who this is and how you can reach out and touch them. If they don't want to do their job over there in Cuyahoga County, if they don't think it's worth the effort to pursue a police officer who shoots a 12-year-old baby playing in a park within 3 seconds of encountering that person, then maybe that's not the prosecutor for you over there in Cuyahoga County. I'm just saying. So no need in getting mad, family. No need in, fussing and cussing and coming on Facebook and, venting. I mean, you could do it, but then you need to roll up your sleeves and you need to get about the business of getting these folks out of office. And you need to be identifying right now. Start looking for folks who can replace this prosecutor over there in Cuyahoga County. Surely there's someone who has an appetite for prosecuting errant police officers. You need to figure out who that is today. Don't wait till September, August 2022. You need to know today so you can start helping this person at a grassroots level to get elected as the prosecutor in your particular county, Cuyahoga County specifically. So anyway, that's what you guys can do. That's what you can do with regards to everything that I'm going to be sharing with you and talking to you about. We have a role to play and we need to get busy. Everybody else is planning and practicing and plotting right now about what they're going to do and how they're going to try to prevent this new administration from whatever they think they might do in our on our behalf, in our pursuit for police reform. Hey, Loretta. Hey, Larry. Hey, Lindsay. Folks are planning on the other side what to do to thwart that. Police unions are particularly powerful, and we've been talking about that, and you guys no doubt by now have seen the kind of influence and sway that police unions have with regards to errant officers like Timothy Loman, who fight feverishly to help them keep their job, or if they are fired, get their job back. And so something really needs to be done with regards to the amount of influence police unions have across these 18,000 police departments. That too is something else that community can begin to work on going forward. Makes no sense to complain if you're not going to start attacking those barriers to police reform. Defunding the police, moving money around, reallocating funds, bringing on clinicians to respond to mental health issues. All of that is helpful. All of that is important. It's necessary. It's a good first step or a good point to include. But police unions, if you don't deal with those police unions, none of that other stuff is going to matter. If you don't stop police unions from having influence and sway, if you don't stop police unions from contributing millions of dollars to the campaigns of elected officials, like maybe that prosecutor over in Cuyahoga County, I don't know that to be true, but I'm just saying that's the situation that we had here in Los Angeles. We had a district attorney who was just voted out, Jackie Lacey, who was given over $3 million in campaign donations trying to keep her ass in office. Why? Because seemingly she had never seen a police shooting of a Black or Hispanic person that she couldn't get excited about. Seemingly. And so if you got police unions across the entire state of California giving Jackie Lacey $3 million, you absolutely understand why she was not prosecuting police officers. You understand why Jackie Lacey wouldn't meet with the community with regards to why she's not prosecuting police officers. And so for that, she was shown the door. You too can get that kind of work done in your community, in your county, with your prosecutor, if you start today. Today. Don't wait till January 20th. You need to start today. And if you're not willing to do that, then you really have nothing to say. And you can't say that voting doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count, and I'm not, you guys were wearing me out with that, what was it? No reparations, no vote, or you got to have a certain agenda, all of that. It does matter. Your vote does matter, and we know that to be true because folks got busy here in California, in Los Angeles County, and got rid of the district attorney. So your vote does matter. It's important, and certainly come January 5th, 6th, whenever it is you're voting in Atlanta, those people understand their vote matters, and that's why now they have record number of early voting going on in the state of Georgia. So please, 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 please don't say that your vote doesn't matter. Hey, Brian. Hi, Carl. I'm going to try to look away and see the comments as you guys are coming in and saying hello to me. I want to acknowledge you and just say thank you for just being you. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, I've already talked to you about the family having 3 experts and the fact that the prosecutor had, I think, 4 experts. So they had dueling experts over there on the Tamir Rice case. And then they just said, you know what, it's just too much. We can't figure it out. So we're just not going to do nothing. Thank you, World Peace. I wish you all the best in 2021 as well. Hey, Rodney, what's up, dude? Appreciate you. So we know that killings, assaults by police officers, and now this new thing, don't get me started, ketamine. You guys have already heard me talk about police departments, Aurora, Colorado specifically, that is having some explaining to do with regards to police officers compelling paramedics to use ketamine to inject folks who are not responsive or who are not cooperating or who the officers say have excited delirium. That's the term that officers are using. That's the term that Derek Chauvin used when he sat on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. He said that he was exhibiting symptoms or signs of excited delirium. In other words, just superhuman, crazy, out of his mind strength, not cooperating. And so excited delirium is a thing that officers are now using, and they're telling paramedics, this person has excited delirium, shoot him up with ketamine. That's going on too. Ketamine seems to be taking the place of, maybe deadly use of force, although people are dying after being injected with it. And tasers and chokeholds, add ketamine to the mix. In Aurora, Colorado, it has been temporarily banned from use, but you guys need to pay attention. Not only now are police officers needing particular scrutiny, you need to pay attention to paramedics when you call. Because understand, when you call 911, typically you're going to get the police, and then they're going to patch you into paramedics. So when people say, I didn't call paramedics, I didn't call for the police, I called for paramedics. Well, when you call for one, you call for all. And if you say anything that sounds like person is uncooperative or violent, then the paramedics are going to automatically ask the police to please come with us so that they feel safe when they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. Having said that, now knowing what's going on with this ketamine injection, I don't want paramedics injecting my family member, because I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I need you to tell me before you start pulling out needles what it is that you're doing. There's video out there. Ketamine was used on Elijah McClain in Aurora, Colorado back in 2019. It caused him to go into cardiac arrest. He was in the hospital for about 6 days. And now we know that there are other instances of police in Aurora, Colorado using this ketamine. Ketamine is used in hospitals under very particular circumstances. They need to know your medical history. They need to know medication you're taking. They need to know your weight. And there's all sorts of stuff that have to be known before somebody just willy-nilly injects you. And if you see these videos that are out there in Aurora, Colorado specifically, you see the officer just very cavalierly saying, could you just give him some calm down juice, is what one of the officers called it. Could you give him some calm down juice? He's not listening. He was fighting before the paramedics got there. He was fighting. Could you inject him? Could you put him to sleep? And that's just not right. It's not right. And so you guys pay attention, because this is a thing and it's going on. So, Elijah McClain, 2019. And then, like I said, we've had several continued incidents here in this year, 2020. Ahmaud Arbery, although it wasn't the police, I'm including him because the guy who shot and killed him was a former police officer turned investigator with the district attorney's office. We know about George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, Daniel Prude in New York, and now most recently, with all that has gone on, most recently we had in Columbus. Columbus is off the hook, you guys. Be careful out there. Andre Marcus Hill was just recently shot and killed, as well as Casey Goodson Jr. in Columbus by the Columbus Police Division. And the other, Andre Marcus Hill, was shot by a deputy sheriff's unit, and I forget which deputy sheriff's office it was responsible for killing Andre Marcus Hill. But this just happened just last week. And so all of the things that we've seen on TV, everything that has been done that we know is unnecessary, is outrageous, is over the top, and all of that has still not given police officers pause. None of what we have seen them do, none of what folks have been complaining and protesting about, and all this so-called police reform and whatever else folks are asking for, that's not going to stop me if I'm in uniform and I decide today I'm beating somebody's ass. You're not going to stop me with police reform, I promise you. Officer accountability, personal financial accountability, qualified immunity is something that needs to be done away with. So again, something you guys can be working towards getting rid of: qualified immunity, getting rid of prosecutors, mayors who are elected, city managers who are elected, who won't check their sheriffs, who won't check their police chiefs. Sheriffs are elected officials. These are all folks that you can reach out and touch. And so you need to start looking and knowing who's who in the zoo. You need to know. So again, all of what's gone on this year, none of it has done anything to deal with the racial disparity in terms of police shootings. There's a study out there by a university, and it says that really over the last 5 years, nothing's changed. And we know that it goes back further than 5 years, but for sure, because they started the study, they say nothing has changed. And what happens, family, is that, unless there's a study, unless there's some damn blue ribbon panel, folks try to act like what we know is not really happening. And so it's not until there's something on a piece of paper and they got some numbers with it that they will admit that this is a thing. But still, even in the admission, they don't do anything to stop it. And so that's where you come in. That's where you come in. There was a officer over in Ohio. I was telling you about this young man who was just recently killed. And this officer, his name is Michael Jason Mead, and he's with the sheriff's department. I'm looking here at my notes now. He's with the sheriff's department, and his name is Michael Jason Mead. And Michael Jason Mead is responsible for the fatal shooting of Andre Marcus. No, he's responsible for the shooting of Casey Goodson. Casey Goodson was entering his grandmother's apartment, and this Jason Mead is what he goes by, Jason. He was part of some kind of fugitive warrant, and he saw Casey and said he thought he had something in his hand that looked like a gun. It was a cell phone, and he wound up shooting him and killing him. And now we know that this particular deputy over there in Ohio says he's a minister, and evidently, so when they talk about having a registry and needing to know who these officers are, and you've heard me say that these police departments already know. They don't need a national registry. These officers know who the jackasses are because they've been involved in incident after incident after incident. It's not until it makes national news that now everybody is clutching their pearls and acting all surprised like they didn't know that this was even a thing that could happen, that this officer would do this. But we know, according to a report, that Jason Mead, because he's also a pastor, and he preaches at some little church, and it's reported that even some of his co-workers and supervisors have come to his sermons, that's what you want to call it, a sermon, to hear him preach. And here's the kind of stuff that he was saying. So this is his mindset. He says, we don't go around looking for it because we don't have to. He said, plenty of people out there will give you that opportunity. In other words, that opportunity to hurt them, to kill them, which is what he ultimately did. There was a recording in 2018 where Mead was making some comments on law enforcement and faith because he is a minister. And he described his assignment to this fugitive team working with the U.S. Marshals. He described it as hunting people. That's who Jason Mead is. The sheriff's department in Ohio knows exactly who Jason Mead is. He hunts people, and they allowed him to do this for 17 years on their sheriff's department. He said he hunts people to a group of folks, and it's reported that there was a lot of laughter because I imagine the folks in that room looked a lot like Jason and nothing like Casey Goodson Jr., a black man. And he said, it's a great job. I love it. He loves hunting people, black people, be clear. And it says about 30 minutes into this sermon that he was giving, where there were several of his SWAT colleagues and bosses, he made some other outrageous comments. And he talked about, when one SWAT guy throws a punch, I got to throw one too. That's the mindset. He said, it's the truth. He says, we have a little saying, hey, if you're going to get in trouble, then I'm going to get in trouble too. Which probably translates to, if you're going to lie, then I'm going to lie with you. Right? We know that happened in the case of Laquan McDonald, different department, different city. But we know that happened in the case of Laquan McDonald. Several of the officers that were there with Jason Van Dyke lied about what Laquan was doing moments before he was murdered by Jason Van Dyke. And those officers are still on the department. They unsuccessfully took them to a criminal case. They're still on the department. So they too live to offend again. They live to lie again. The next time somebody like Jason winds up shooting someone and killing them, they'll lie too. You're going to get in trouble, I'm going to get in trouble. You get days off, I get days off. And we'll make a vacation out of it. This is 17-year veteran Jason Mead talking and sometime preaching this and using the Bible as his authority to do so. It says in June of 2018, Mead was among 7 officers who had fired weapons at someone during some kind of a standoff in Pike County. And that particular standoff ended with 2 men dead. That was in 2018. So they knew who Jason Mead was, didn't need him on a special national registry. Did not need Jason on a registry. They knew exactly who he was. And I guess they kind of like him. They appreciate Jason Mead and the fact that he enjoys hunting people. And so they let him out every day to go hunt folks who look like you and me. until, well, he killed the wrong person, and they could not mitigate and minimize that behavior. And so now he's been fired and facing criminal charges. Before that, he was reprimanded in March of last year for using his taser on a suspect and then not telling his supervisor that he had tased the person. That's who Jason Meade is. It says that his personnel file shows in 2010 that his supervisors requested that he be taken off of this special investigations unit that would double up with the Marshals Service, and that they could not trust him to discharge his duties appropriately. This is what they said in 2010. And then he continued to show them who he was in 2017 and 2018. And well, now we have a young man dead. And so Chief Deputy Mark Barrett wrote that based on the report submitted in his office, there's now also, I guess, an internal affairs investigation of Jason Meade. So anyway, that's what's going on in Ohio, and it's just more of the same. It's just more of the same. This report that I mentioned to you earlier that talked about how many Black folks were killed this year in 2020 says that Black people were killed at 2.6 times the rate of white people, and Hispanics were killed nearly 1.3 times the rate of white people. For Black people, the average age of someone having been killed by the police is 30. For Hispanics killed by the police, the average age is 33. And for Native Americans, the average age is 31. So again, nothing has changed. New Year's Eve, I wanted to come to you guys and just kind of catch up and say, hey, and tell you what's been going on as if you don't know. This election cycle has kind of taken all of the oxygen out of the room. And so some of these things that have been occurring, we may not have heard. It's kind of hard to keep up with. But again, there's some very specific things that I want each of you to know you can do. Play this again, write it down. These are the things you should be thinking about going forward with this new administration. And specifically, if you're not getting what you need from local prosecutors, mayors, sheriffs, then 2022 midterm is coming. Qualified immunity is something that needs to be dealt with, something that needs to be stricken from officers' ability to hide when they do use deadly force as a first resort rather than a last resort, the way that we're taught. Officers, I think it would be helpful if they were decertified if they are found to be violating policy or procedure and or law with regards to use of force. There's talk about, independent review boards and special prosecutors and all of that. But if an officer is given the gift of resignation, they should be decertified, because officers do have due process and there are policies and procedures that have to happen before you can just outright fire someone. But certainly a decertification would prevent an officer like Timothy Loman from moving from department to department. Certification for a police officer is much like having a driver's license to drive. Here in California, we are certified through POST, Peace Officer Standards and Training. I would imagine there's a unit like that in every state. It may be called something different. We have a senator here, Bradford, I believe he's out of Gardena, who is trying to move legislation in California with regards to decertifying officers who are in violation, who are using unnecessary deadly force or excessive force. There was some pushback a couple of months ago, and while this legislation wasn't addressed then, it will be revisited sometime next year. So Californians, be on the lookout for that. And again, police unions making donations to elected officials, I think that's something that should not happen. If you agree with me, that's a conversation that you need to have in your community with your leaders and your legislators. And if you are not getting the kind of service that you are deserving and wanting, If your department is not dealing with quality of life issues, then you have an affirmative responsibility to get those people out of office and get someone else in. And so that may not happen until 2022, depending on whether or not you're dealing with someone who's an elected official. So I wanted to come to you before, it got to be midnight on the East Coast. It's coming up on 6 o'clock. So that means 9 o'clock East Coast. Yeah. So I just wanted to come to you guys because I haven't in a long time, and just kind of check in and say hello, let you see me and know that I'm well and good. I just needed to step away and decompress, have some me time, do a little retail therapy, albeit online, but I did. I did. And so now I'm ready to hit the new year running and, continue to share with you the things that I think might be helpful for you to know. Sadly, I'll be coming back to you in the new year with stories of people that we care about, people that we know, people that we hear about who look like me and some of you, who've lost their lives because these officers have yet to be deterred from the bad behavior. So roll your sleeves up, get ready to get busy. For those of you who have stuck with me throughout this broadcast, I had mentioned at the very beginning that I wanted to say thank you to those of you who have been subscribing and following and listening and telling a friend. And I'm going to gift you a t-shirt that says your agreement is not required, much like the one I'm wearing right now, as well as a copy of my autobiography, Black and Blue, Creation of a Social Advocate. You can go to my Gmail, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, at gmail.com. And the first 5 people who go there will get a t-shirt. If you do that, give me your size. If you want a book, just give me your address. SGT Dorsey Speaks, much like my YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. And first 5 people who go will get either a t-shirt or a copy of my autobiography. So thank you so much, family. I want you to have a happy and healthy, safe New Year's Eve, and I will see you in 2021. Until next time, be good, be safe.